Who is the worst attention whore you've come across? Sister-in-law. At our wedding she did everything she could to steal attention away from her sister, my wife. She wore a dress that she had altered to be both low cut and short skirted. Then when no one was paying her attention kept accidentally dropping things, so she would bend over to pick them up. When her dad remarried she was telling people at the ceremony that she had cancer, but had come to terms with it. She didn't have cancer. My fiance has been my best friend since we were kids. Once, in high school, he was dating a girl who decided that, after scaring the shit out of him by trying to cuff him to the bed against his will, she was going to threaten to kill herself if he dumped her. About 10 years later I ran into her at a party. She was there with her husband and infant son, not the kind of party you take a baby to, but okay. She proceeded to tell me how they never technically broke up since being 15 years old. His answer to "if you dump me, I'll kill myself" was to just stop talking to her, and because of that, they were technically still together, and she was cheating on him with her husband, making her son a bastard. She was 100% serious. And she also told me to tell him she wanted an apology. This was in front of a lot of very stunned people. My grandma has to make everything about her. Literally everything. No matter the person or situation. And if the convo switches to where it's not about her, she gets visibly annoyed, and you can see the gears turning in her head as she tries to figure out how to get the conversation back onto her. She constantly retells stories she's already told 1000 times back from when she was younger, if she can't think of anything recent. If I have to ever again hear about how she was prom queen back in 1951, or valedictorian of her 10-person 8th grade class, or how whenever she goes anywhere, everyone just loves her, she literally says, and you know, they just love me all the time, I'm gonna lose it. My roommate's cat died last week. When she told her coworkers, one lady proceeded to start telling a story about a cat she kinda owned that never even lived with her, that died 5+ years ago. She got so worked up that she started crying, and the entire office started consoling the coworker instead of my roommate whose cat had died the day before. Unbelievable. I knew a girl in college whose father died at least 6 times over the span of one semester. Like, we would be hanging out, and then she gets a call, and then she drops the phone. Her eyes go red, and the waterworks start. There's a girl in my college classes who claims her dad owns a huge soccer team, but doesn't know the name. She's dating one of the LA Lakers, but can't give his name out. But she is also talking to someone who's in the NFL to keep her options open. She says her dad works at a local steel factory and has no idea where his extra money comes from, because he gives her hush money, then called another girl out in class for lying to fit in. There was a girl who used to be part of this group of friends that I saw on the odd occasion when I was a teen. I only met her twice, but on both occasions she started to full on sing super loud whenever everybody else was talking and she was not involved in the conversation. There was this British TV show about bad moms, and one of them made her daughter dress way older than she looked. Daughter wanted to wear a t-shirt and jeans to go out to eat. Mom made her wear tights, miniskirt, boots, tight tee, sleeveless overcoat, and a boatload of jewelry. Kid basically looked like she was in a Disney show and would make her daughter randomly sing and do her cheer routine in public, because you never know who's watching. People get discovered on the streets every day. Anyone who checks in at the hospital on Facebook. There was a girl in my college that constantly would say shit. During orientation she told people she was recovering from brain cancer, didn't happen, and was partially deaf. She wasn't. She then found out my friend had epilepsy, so she started doing these exaggerated tremors. She then would fake seizures all the time for all the years she was there, which was a pain, but because I would have to treat them like real ones. She did it once during a power outage for the most attention possible. She did it so often that once 911 hung up on someone calling it in because they knew it was her. Edit. Since I keep getting comments about 911 hanging up, I feel like I should mention that the person who called was also a dispatcher. Back in early elementary school during art, I used to talk shit about my own art to get a lot of compliments from other students. My teacher noticed it and told me to stop. The death posts on r/teenagers. Girl in college would constantly try to get attention. Oh, my boyfriend dumped me. My new guy beats me. I'm gay. I'm not gay. I own a signed Kurt Cobain bass guitar, but by far the worst one. I was raped, and the guy got sent to prison. Gave people a paper cut out of a rape case, but it looked odd. So I tracked it down using the Google and found she had altered it, and it was some other girl. We all cut ties with her after that. Fucking psycho. My high school ex posted a picture of a knife to his wrist on Twitter after I broke up with him for cheating on me and being pathological liar. He told everyone to message me and to talk to him. I cut off all contact or he was going to kill himself. I hate that. I was young and dumb. So it worked and we ended up back together. A lady that I work with is the biggest one-upper I have ever met. In April I had major surgery to remove half of my digestive system and was given a lot of attention from our concerned coworkers. She was not happy because she wasn't the center of attention anymore. Well, she found out she needed to have a DNC, outpatient procedure to cauterize her uterus, and you're awake for the whole thing. She came into work, she decided to milk it for all she could. And when she came into work the next day, she was distraught over the fact no one came to check up on her the night before and wouldn't talk about anything but her recovery. By the end of the week she was telling people she was recovering from cancer surgery. In fact, she still complains that she is recovering from it, and this happened back in April. She also told me, unsolicited of course, that the reason she didn't come see me while I was in the hospital was because her mom had died in a hospital 13 years ago and she is still grieving, and going to a hospital would make her grieving process start all over again. I actually feel bad for her. Alright. In high school, my buddy was banging this girl who told everyone she got shot. I asked her to see the bullet wound, and she pulled her shirt down a little so I could see her shoulder. You know what was fucking covering her wound? One single ace band-aid. Edit. Bonus story. So she told my buddy he got her pregnant. Condom did rip. So believable. She told him she wanted an abortion and needed for it. He gave it to her, but I asked her how she was going to get it for. She said she was going to the hospital with a fake ID. Edit 2. I forgot the worst of all. She was a loud and proud juggalette. My ex-sister-in-law made up a story that she had cancer 3 separate times to try to get sympathy/attention. A little touchy, but here goes nothing. My brother was in a toxic relationship. He was physically and mentally being abused, not sexually. He did manage to get his abusive girlfriend pregnant. It got to a point where he was actually crying because he just needed to come home with me to our mom. That was the last straw for me, so I said fuck it, come with me. So he grabbed his stuff and we literally ran from her. She was throwing his stuff out the door and screaming. We kept running, but then she yelled, "If you don't come back right now, I'm going to stick a knife in my pregnant belly." I wish I was making this up. We of course ran back to prevent this. So yeah, that. This girl in 8th grade claimed she was depressed and suicidal. She was popular, so everyone believed her and felt bad for her. She got all kinds of attention for it. There was this kid in the same grade who was actually depressed, and he tried hanging himself on a doorknob in the back of our class when no one was looking one day, and in an odd way he became popular after because of it. She decided to do the same one day in class, except no one noticed her doing it until she was passed out and had to go to the emergency room. There was a chick in my high school who faked pregnancy, claimed to do drugs in the restroom with her drug buddies, and then told people I was the father. I never had sex with her because I kind of had the gay. My 2 ex-friends, they dated in high school, were forced to split because she was legal age, 19, and he was 15. Got back together and just made a bunch of bad choices together. Engaged after a month and just constantly crying for attention. Everything he cooks, microwaves, Goes onto Facebook and Snapchat with annoying voiceovers of her going back quote oh so good, constant posts of back quote oh my god I love my baby so much with love Adove photos of them. But they fight and back quote break up more than anyone I have ever known. If he pissed her off she'd text me a picture of her engagement ring being taken off. They thought a friend Snapchatting a picture outside of their house and not going to see them meant he had to be planning on killing himself. Proceeded to spam all their mutuals with panicked messages until they found out it was basically just a back quote hey look I was in your town pic. Not only are they attention whores, but just a total hot mess altogether. A friend joined me and 2 others in the Philippines for a couple weeks despite her never having traveled before and despite her having 12,000 words to write while for uni we're there. About 5 days and she goes storming off in El Nido in the pouring rain in the dark and claims she's tired. We tell her not to go, but by this point she's been crying and complaining about the trip all week. She's staying in a different room. So we didn't hear from her until the next day because reception told us she had checked out, but left her watch behind. She wrote on Facebook we had been leaving her out, not true, and not being considerate towards her injury, a small graze on her leg, and we weren't being supportive with her uni work, aka not doing it for her. Oh and by the way we are all around 26. This kid who's chilled out by now, and I'm good friends with once was a huge attention whore. One day he walked up to our table while we were peacefully playing Smash and pulled out one of those rolls of minty tape, that's what I call them, meant to make your breath minty, and says, I'm eating this whole roll and none of you are ever gonna stop me, god damn it, and so we didn't. In my sophomore year of high school I briefly dated, then had an on again / off again friendship with this senior in my drama class. Let's call him T, as in the idiot. T was awesome when we first met. He told a lot of cool stories and seemed to have an interesting life. He was a little weird, but the fun kind of weird, and very socially savvy, so he was generally well liked by a lot of the class. Over time, however, I could tell T was a little off. His stories started to seem a little outlandish, for example, how Katy Perry and Ariana Grande kissed him on each cheek at the same time. How he survived a 30-foot fall from a treetop into a large hole after being unconscious for hours. How he had a fake girlfriend, confirmed to be fake, that he dumped just so he could date me, and other unbelievable stuff like that. Something just wasn't right about this guy. Anyways, the most attention whore thing he ever did was tell our entire class that he had some fatal disease that required surgery, from which he was probably going to die. We weren't dating anymore, and in an on phase of our friendship at this point BTW. He even went as far as saying goodbyes and offering to sell his stuff. Honestly, I could tell that this was probably bullshit. He didn't know what this disease was, except a tumor up near his, and I quote, you know what? And just cause he was a compulsive liar in general, but those who didn't know him as well as I did fell for it. One girl even had to go to counseling because she was so worried about him. He told us this the Thursday before a week-long Thanksgiving break, and that his surgery was the next Tuesday, and if we didn't hear from him by that night, he'd be dead. So I texted him Tuesday night. No response. I texted him on Thursday wishing him a happy Thanksgiving. Nothing. At this point, I actually started to get a little worried what if something did happen to him. But there he was on Monday, back at school, totally fine. Not in a wheelchair or crutches, or even limping. Yeah, I bitched him out on it pretty hard. TL, doctor, psycho friend made up a fake fatal illness, and worried our classmates / friends for days for the sole purpose of getting attention.